doing a review on Jessica Jones Season 1. Jessica Jones stars Christian Ritter, David Tennant, Carrie Ann Moss, Mike Coulter, and several other outstanding actors. It has ties to Daredevil and the rest of the MCU. The music and tone are amazing. Really fits the detective feel. She doesn't wear a hero costume, her hero costume specifically from the comics. There's a moment in the show where Trish tries to influence her to wear it, as well as adopt the name Jewel. That's an Easter egg from the comics, by the way. And Jessica comments that sounds like a stripper name. In the comics, her parents were killed in a car accident. She went into a coma, was adopted by the Jones family, and she later became a hero after gaining powers. She was taken control of by the Purple Man, that's in the comics Kilgrave, and his skin tone actually is purple in the comics. After Miss Marvel, she was used to attack other heroes, the Avengers specifically. Miss Marvel helped her. She broke her control, and after she retired and became a private detective and ended up marrying Luke Cage, but she lived with a lot of guilt, uh, a lot of depression from being controlled, used, and taken advantage of. In the show, Jessica is a drunk, antisocial, damaged anti-hero that pushes people away. She was once a hero. She tried to be, uh, but Kilgrave took control of her. In modern times, she's a private detective. She does have super strength and the ability to jump like the Hulk. But that's the least interesting thing about her. She had a harsh childhood, as mentioned, like it does reflect the comic book. She suffered loss, was later taken advantage of sexually, emotionally, and mentally. She's essentially a victim of rape, and those themes are very present and carried on throughout the whole season. She lives with a kind of PTSD. But other characters like Trish, aka Hellcat in the comics, sort of plays Jessica Jones' sidekick on here. We got other characters like Nuke and Luke Cage. All of them are introduced and really well fleshed out. They each have their own journey throughout the season. But the mysterious Kilgrave teased at first through Jessica's PTSD and the way he's alluded to before being introduced through creepy dreams, word of mouth, through victims. He's exceptionally well set up. And when he finally appears, it's not a letdown. It surpasses expectations, which is incredibly difficult to do. David Tennant, who played the 10th Doctor, Doctor Who, formerly he formerly played Doctor Who. And on there, he was this very charming, heroic character, but here he portrays such an incredibly creepy, sinister villain that's charming. It's one of those type of villains you can kind of love to hate. He's just really sleazy, but some like dickish, but also really likable sometimes. And like I said, he played a very this actor has portrayed a very heroic character as the 10th Doctor, and here he's playing a villain, and the contrast in that just shows how much of an incredibly powerful actor he is. Jessica Jones swears to everybody she knows he's still out there because everyone believes he's dead, and no one believes her. She's just very damaged, and the things he made her do, the guilt, the self-loathing, all this stuff she deals with. She's like an alcoholic. She just has one night stands and does like all this stuff that isn't exactly good for her to try to feel better. But like I said, I personally found Kilgrave more fascinating than the hero, Jessica Jones. While she's layered, she can't compete with the level of intrigue surrounding Kilgrave. Kilgrave has the powers to control everyone through vocal persuasion and make them do whatever he wants. Versus the strong desire they feel to want to do it and the guilt that accompanies that once his control's lifted. The reality in that is, who would actually be able to resist not getting everything handed to them? To have such powers from such a young age as Kilgrave, how would you be able to truly acknowledge right from wrong if you had these powers? That's one thing I found. Like, if you had these powers from the start, not knowing people just didn't naturally want to do whatever you wanted them to do, that's a, it makes a situation really complicated and puts it in a very different light. And you can empathize with him because, in many ways, he is the equivalent of a child, and this is bad behavior, but it's learned behavior from not knowing the difference between right and wrong from, a young age. So it's fascinating. Kilgrave is fascinating. And he's obsessed with Jessica Jones, the one that got away, the one that broke control. And he says himself, he never knows if people are actually doing what they want to do or what he wants them to do, which makes you wonder for a bit there. Does he desire her because he wants to control her, or is it because she's the only one he's for sure has free will and can do whatever she wants regardless of what he says? But other interesting characters like Malcolm is a junkie that has a strong character arc. As I said, Trish, Nuke, Luke Cage, they all have incredibly strong character arcs. And Carrie Ann Moss's character, if I remember right, is named Hogarth or something like that. She has a very strong character. Well, I wouldn't say she has a really strong arc. For the most time, she's just a cold-hearted bitch, but she does end up going through something very devastating and rattling. And she's a woman of power. So for her to have to deal with something like that, it's just incredibly the emotional impact. You can tell it's just incredible. But the whole show revolves around abusive relationships of all different types between all the main characters. The show is full of relatable themes for women and even men. It's full of eerie, dark, disturbing moments, flawed heroes, and humanizes. Like, all the characters, they're flawed. All the characters are flawed. The heroes are flawed. And it humanizes everybody to a relatable degree. Nobody is perfect and everyone is damaged. And that's a very real thing. So I thought the show was incredible. Like, if you were to do an adaptation of Jessica Jones, you couldn't do it better than this. In many ways, they improved Jessica Jones from the comic books. Uh, that to me is incredibly fascinating. How much they did on here, like the scenes where Kilgrave, uh, instead of mind controlling somebody to just hand over their property, he buys this house, and Jessica Jones thinks that it's to impress her since it's her child at a house, and you know you have to wonder if it is or not when all this is going down, because he does try to go out and try to show her that he can change, he can be different and all that, and you wonder if he actually can or not. But Jessica, she's just doesn't believe it, and if I remember correctly, she just doesn't give it a real chance beyond beyond like one time of them both going out together and attempting this. But there's a lot of stuff in here that's so fascinating to dissect between Jessica Jones and Kilgrave. He does a lot of very powerful things. Like she is arrested and he comes in there and makes all the cops put guns to their heads, and so he can just walk her out of the police station. There's a lot. He is very dangerous and incredibly powerful, very intimidating, but very charming too at the same time. And it's really, it's really amazing to think about those having those powers in real life. Could anybody not be like him? Would you be like him? Can you say that for sure? I mean, I'd like to believe I wouldn't be anything like him if I had these powers from a young age. But can I really say that without a doubt? Can anybody? It's very fascinating. But I'm gonna give this show a solid 10 out of a solid 10 because honestly, you can't do a better adaptation of this character. That's real. You can't do a better adaptation of Jessica Jones than what was done here. It was amazing. All-star acting, you know. Some things could have been a little bit better, like they could have used Jessica's powers a bit more and showed them off. But there were some pretty intense scenes, like her and Luke Cage getting in a fight when he takes control of somebody like Luke Cage. I mean, there was very intense stuff, like some rattling twists and all kinds of disturbing things. Kilgrave is probably one of the best villains ever seen in live action when it comes to like superhero villains. So I give this show a 10 out of 10. Very solid stuff. Uh, Highly recommend you check it out if you haven't seen it. Season 1, just stellar. Uh, like, subscribe, comment, share your opinions. What do you think of it? I'm not monetized. If you want to support my channel, check out my GoFundMe link, check out my PayPal link, and stay awesome. Rock on.